Alright everybody, how y'all doing today? Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a YouTuber. I hardly ever make videos. If you're not from the South and you do not like my accent, I'm right there with you. I hate the way I sound on videos and whatnot. But I want to talk today about the case of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey. I've watched the show Making a Murderer many a times, probably 3 or 4, and there's not a lot of people in my immediate circle that really care about this. So this video is basically a way for me to talk out loud about the things that I think about the whole case and just share my thoughts and that type of thing. So just up front, I think Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are innocent. Even if Stephen Avery did it, I 100% believe Brendan Dassey is innocent. If he did have any involvement in seeing anything, I don't think he knew what was going on. Not enough to have criminal charges brought against him. I just want to go over some things. This video is going to skip around a lot. I don't have any structure to it. I don't really have a main point. I just want to talk about the evidence and get it all off my chest. And if anybody does wind up viewing this video, y'all could let me know what you think about it if you care. But so things that concern me, I want to talk about the key real quick. Just major points that some of these, like I said, some of this stuff has been pointed out. If you watch the show, some of this is obvious, some of this might be things that I thought about. But starting with the key, you found one single key, and everybody knows, almost everybody, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody in the world that has only one key that they use and no house keys, locker key, all kind of different keys that people have on the key ring. Well, in this case, unless they're claiming Stephen Avery took the keys off, she only had one key on this key ring. The key didn't have any blood on it. This, of Stephen Avery's or Teresa Halbach. The state claims that they found Stephen's DNA on the key, but it wasn't blood DNA. And supposedly he had an active cut on his finger, so when he started the ignition, it left a blood smear on the dash. So how would you not get blood on the key? Why would Teresa Halbach not have a drop of DNA on the key if she uses it every day for years? There was no blood stains on the steering wheel, no blood stains on the gear shift. I mean, some of this is in the show. I mean, we've all talked about this, but one point that I continually think about is nobody has just one key on their key ring. So this, to me, just objectively thinking about it, it's impossible for that to be her key. Unless you're saying, well, Stephen Avery took the other keys off and disposed of them, but he kept that key because he was going to go back later and get rid of the car, or whatever the case is. There's some other things I was thinking about with the key. If I think of them, I'll come back to it. But real quick, I want to jump to the blood stains inside the vehicle. So a lot of this is known. You have a blood spot by the ignition. By the ignition, you have blood spots, the rear door. You have a blood stain on a CD case, blah, blah, blah. But you have no fingerprints anywhere on the car. There's only a few drops of blood, no mixtures of DNA. And you can clearly see, first of all, all those blood stains, as Kathleen Zellner has proven, are easily recreated. The blood stain right by the ignition, I mean, if you look hard enough, you can see where the smear starts. It's like a perfect little circle. I mean, if you put a Q-tip right up to each little stain and went this way and put it there and went this way, I mean, it fits perfect with a Q-tip. Okay? So the blood stains, to me, prove nothing. The DNA on the hood latch, to me, proves nothing, because you had all that access to his property, his belongings. They're not very clean people. I mean, you can find his DNA very easily inside of his trailer. That's not a knock on him. I'm just stating the fact. We'll pick up on their how clean they keep their stuff in a little while, because that's important. So the blood stain, all of that is easily recreated, and it just doesn't add up. If he has an active cut like the state said he did, he would have blood on the steering wheel. He'd have blood on the key ring, the little blue tassel that was on it. He would have blood on the gear shift. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I'm not saying I am saying it's impossible. If he's actively bleeding from that finger, he's going to have blood on the key and gear shift at a minimum, and the steering wheel. So, real quick, I want to jump to the license plate. I told my boss this the other day. We talked about it. I said, I know it sounds stupid, but you know how you can hear somebody looking at something? For instance, if me or you in the same room and you're facing that way at your computer, and this is the analogy that I gave my boss. I said, okay, look towards your computer, and I'm behind you. You can't see me, but you can hear me. And I say, okay, what time is it? It's 11:27. Without seeing me, you knew whether it was a clock on the wall or me looking at my phone. You knew I was looking at the clock. You heard me look at. I know it sounds weird to some people. Some people it might not sound weird, but you heard me looking at the clock. In season 1, when they asked Andy Colburn, was you looking at those plates when you called him in? You can hear him looking at the license plates. I don't know. I can't sit here and say I wasn't there. I can only tell you what I believe. But he had to be looking at them plates. Whether they did anything wrong or not, he had to be looking at those plates or that number on a piece of paper at a minimum. If you just want to say, well, no, I don't think the cops did anything wrong. Okay, well, at a minimum, he had to be looking at it, wrote down on a piece of paper. Why would he be calling it in if he had it wrote down on a piece of paper saying, oh, this is Teresa Hallbox, license plate number, she's a missing person, so I'm going to keep out. There would be no need to call it in. You know the make and model of the car, you know the name of the owner, and etc. It doesn't make any sense. He was looking at those plates when he called it in. Another thing that I want to jump to is the jury. When the jury was first polled, right when they went in for deliberation in Stephen Avery's trial, 7 of them said not guilty. Somewhere along the way they caved, and then the stupidest thing I've ever heard of happened. They said, okay, he's guilty of murder, but he's not guilty of mutilating a corpse. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So you're saying he murdered her, but he's not guilty of mutilating a corpse. That's absolutely ridiculous. It makes no sense. So to me, like somebody else has stated, that means you just came to a compromise and was like, okay, well, we're tired of deliberating. We'll cave and say he's guilty on murder and not guilty on this. It makes absolutely no sense. And to be honest with you, the 7 jurors that felt like a lot of other people did that watched the show, we weren't privileged to all of the trial and the evidence, but if you felt strongly that he was innocent, you should have stuck with your guns and you should have said he's not guilty no matter what, because that's the whole point. The state has the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that person is guilty. And if you have reasonable doubts, there's no reason you should have caved and switched over and said guilty. That makes no sense. And if he is guilty, then no harm done really. But that's not how it's supposed to work. But if he's innocent, like most of us think that he is, it's a freaking shame. You could have got him a new trial and had a hung jury. But then the cleanup, I want to jump to that real quick because I'm trying not to make this video too long. So the state claims that something happened in the trailer. The state claims something happened in the garage. The state claims that something happened in the car. So you're telling me, now all of y'all have seen the inside of Stephen Avery's trailer. You've seen, okay, I'm not sitting here saying I'm the cleanest, richest person in the world, nothing like that, because I'm not. I just I do try to keep my stuff clean as possible. But these aren't the cleanest people in the world. So you're telling me that you don't find one single drop of Teresa Halbach's DNA in the trailer? Other than the fake bullet, you don't find one drop of her DNA in the garage. Blood, anything, hair. But yet, so you're saying that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, they have an IQ like around in the 70s, completely clean the crime scene of the trailer, completely clean the crime scene of the garage, but just said, you know what? We got the house clean, we got the garage clean, but the car, we'll just park it out there. Nobody's gonna find it, even though we're the last people that seen her alive. We'll just park the car over there, and we won't bother cleaning up her blood or our blood or any of the other DNA that we left inside the car. It doesn't make any sense at all. You're not going to convince me, even if you had 100% proof that Stephen Avery did it. The whole state's theory, it has to be so far off that it's not even funny. It makes no sense. Things are supposed to have meaning. They're supposed to make sense when you get to the point where you're at trial and the state is laying out, which was really completely a circumstantial evidence case, and most of the evidence didn't fit. It didn't make any sense, and it drives me nuts. But there's no way they would have cleaned up the garage and the trailer and just said, well, we're not going to clean up the car. We'll just put that off to the side. Ain't no big deal. We'll crush it later. Even if you crush it, all the evidence is still in there. They have to cut it apart. Why wouldn't you have cleaned up the car? It doesn't make any sense. The bones, going back to what the jury said, well, he's not guilty of cutting up the body, but he's guilty. Now, we all know, we have an idea why they say guilty on murder, not guilty of mutilation of a corpse. But just go by that logic alone. Well, he's not guilty of that. Okay, so you're telling me he murdered her and then dumped her somewhere, and then somebody else mutilated the body and put some bones in a burn barrel over there, and they put some bones in my burn pit, and then they put some bones over there. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't even see how you can. It just doesn't add up. It wouldn't make any sense. The blood in the back of the car. Why, if she is there at his house, why would he have a need to put her? This girl doesn't look like she weighs very much. I'm only 5'7", 160 pounds. I guarantee I could have picked her up and carried her. Why would you need, and Stephen Avery is a lot bigger than me, why would you need to put her in the car if you killed her in the garage, or if you killed her in the house, and you mutilated the corpse somewhere right now? That wasn't the state's theory. The state didn't say, well, they put her in the car, they took her somewhere else, dismembered the body, then brought her back, which would be absolutely stupid. That's why they didn't say it, because you're not going to bring a body somewhere else, mutilate it, whatever, and then bring it back and put the bones in your burn barrel. You would just drop it off wherever the heck you dismembered it at and leave it out there. It doesn't make any sense. The whole case just doesn't make any sense, and it drives me nuts. I believe Stephen Avery is innocent. I know Brendan Dassey is. I believe Stephen Avery is innocent, but even if he's not, how can you convict him when none of your evidence matches up? It doesn't make any sense. You did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that person is guilty. You didn't do it. And last but not least, I got a couple minutes. I want to hurry and finish this up. The bullet item FL. Judging by what we've seen on season 2, the Attorney General's office sent a representative with Kathleen Zellner to have the item FL reviewed and put under a microscope. On that bullet, without even being trained, you can clear. Before she even said what it was in the show, I knew exactly what was on the bullet. You can see it is wood. And then before they even talked about the wax or the cotton fibers, the very first time they showed it, you can clearly see there's wood. You can clearly see the little waxy substance on there, and you can see the cotton fibers. That is 100% false from what the state claims. They claim that that was the bullet that was shot through bone, and like the show clearly says, there would be bone and there would be blood on that bullet, and there's none. So even if Stephen Avery shot her in the head, that wasn't the bullet that did it. And that's what I'm saying. None of the evidence matches what the state said, regardless if Stephen Avery did it or not. I'm surprised because I actually think Stephen had pretty good lawyers during his trial, but I'm surprised that he was actually convicted. He wouldn't have been if those 7 jurors that polled not guilty right at the start of deliberations would have had some backbone and said, no, I don't care if we're here for 2 weeks. Well, I'm not changing. He's not guilty. Because that's a person's life. That's a human being's life on the line right there. And that's sad. I have tons of other things to talk about with this. Judging by how this video does, if it doesn't get much interest or support, then I'll probably just, I don't know, talk amongst myself or the Stephen Avery group that I'm in on Facebook or whatever. But if this video does get some support and you do have more questions or things you'd like to talk about or ask me or just talk about in general, let me know in the comment section. And that's about all I have for today because this video is already 16 minutes long. But thank you for watching, and let me know if you have anything else you'd like to talk about.